Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Opposite the Monitor. And today we're going to get into some information about the new Suicide Squad. They did like a dev vlog or like a kind of like an insider video that they kind of released and still show more of terrible ideas. This game is shaping up to be a live service catastrophe, in my opinion. But yeah, man, we got some more information. We're going to talk about as well today. But let's start off with Suicide Squad. Kill the Justice League video series launches alongside pre-orders. So they brought the pre-orders back, man. And yeah, this is not shaping up to be a good game, in my opinion. Completely just like change how certain characters function and what they're known for the sake of adding guns. So then that way you can actively participate in the live service scheme, create, like, use all type of, skill points, I would assume, or most likely credits, to gain. Like, this thing is adding like a battle pass, all that stuff. We'll get into it though. They kind of like release the, League edition as well as the standard edition as well as the deluxe edition. But here's the 2 points that I kind of wanted to specifically point out with this is that they're adding post-launch seasonal updates and earnable characters to expand the story with new missions, items, and more available at no additional cost. So there's a little insight to, like, I guess more characters being added, I guess. I wonder if that's going to be like different members of the Suicide Squad eventually. I know they have like a bunch of different members that end up being associated with the Suicide Squad. So we got like some insight into that a little bit. With that being said though, they could just be talking about the earnable characters, not necessarily the characters that may be put into a battle pass, which will require you to have to actually spend money at least, because they have so in the next piece down here, they also say access to all free seasonal battle pass tiers as each becomes available. So I'm pretty sure they're going to have a free version and a paid premium version. And I would assume that the paid premium version is going to possibly add not only different guns, probably different skins for guns or whatever. I won't say different guns because I think they mentioned that it's all cosmetic, which is a stupid justification either way. But that's ever since that initial justification was made from other games previously, and then gaming community or gamers accepted that as being, it's okay, it's not that bad. People just run with that excuse now. So with that being said, this is not going to end up being, I don't think it's going to end up being a successful game, number one, because it doesn't look that good, number one. Graphically it looks, pretty good, but the gameplay doesn't look that good. The story may be interesting, but I don't think the gameplay is going to keep people there. Like, once you may have the initial, of course you're going to have the initial people that just want to buy the game for the sake of, man, this is like, I love Rocksteady, or I love Suicide Squad, or I love these characters, or whatever like that. You're going to have those people, but I think what's going to end up happening is that you're going to have people that are curious about the story, purchase the game so that way they can play through the story, but the gameplay is not going to keep people there. The gameplay loop is probably not going to keep people there, and people are probably going to end up playing the game, finding out that these repetitive, very much so probably mundane gameplay mechanics that they've implemented into the game will not keep people there long term. So even if you may have people that just either play the game to just like grind and get through the story, or what they may end up doing is like, I'm just gonna check out right now. This isn't even worth my time getting, I guess investing so much time into this game for the sake of the story. So I don't know, man. It's definitely this game, I was expecting before the initial trailer to be like not a live service, but given the fact that Warner Brothers has doubled down on this information, it's like, oh no, most of our games we're going to move forward with, live service games or whatever like that, and all that dumb stuff. It just is like, I like it. Do you not watch history? Were you not alive? Were you not paying attention? You know what I'm saying? Like, you were definitely alive. Were you not paying attention to the previous, like, lot? There's only been maybe 1 or 2 live service games that I can think of that have stood the test of time. Rainbow Six Siege is one of them. Like, my thing is like, you want to try to do these live service games and try to make them last, which it's possible to do that, but you do it either half-ass with the content, the gameplay and stuff like that, or you put money first and you make it so egregious people don't even want to play your game anymore. So, you know, it's like, for me, I feel like this particular repetitive type of attempt to try to turn games into live service monolith style type of games where they just like function this one specific way, and it's to just try to get you on a hook factor, and it's just like it doesn't make any sense a lot of the time. But I mean, they, you know, studios for some reason, capitalism, money is the main reason to keep attempting to do this over and over and over again. But moving on, though, we got some more Warner Brother news. Wonder Woman game is not a live service, says Warner Brothers. So here we go with some positive news on the other end. Granted, this may be one of the only games, because I'm pretty sure the majority of the lineup that Warner Brothers is going to release is going to be live service. That came from CEO himself, Zelnick, I think his name. Oh, no, that's Take Two. I forgot the Warner Brothers CEO. But yeah, he confirmed that, you know, they're moving with live service moving forward. But specifically though, Wonder Woman is not going to be live service. Monolith Productions, which is a studio that did Shadow of War. So I mean, and that confirmation that they're bringing the Nemesis system back, which is a very popular system that they implemented into the game. Into Shadow of War, which was, you know, that game was great. That game was awesome outside of the terrible microtransactions they add in there. But they go on to say in this article that 2 years after its announcement, this game had not been seen much apart from a recent piece of concept art from a developer. However, recent job listing pointed to live service elements for the game. This was like previous reporting. Before this has now been confirmed that it won't be a live service. This rumor was enough to cause outrage in the industry, but Warner Brothers has come forward to clarify that Wonder Woman is not a live service game. It's so funny how, like, you know, you're getting live feedback and reaction to specific decisions that are being made, and the specific decisions that you are making, and people react to it and they say, no, we don't want this. But then you still double down and say, we're going to go ahead with live service, knowing that people don't want this. So knowing that and you know what, I guess it just comes down to, they think the risk is worth the reward. I guess they think, even though it's like you can look back at history, but I think they think that risk is worth the reward. They think that by risking quality of the game, they can make a lot of money off the sake of the name itself, which is why they typically want to throw live service into popularly known games versus games that haven't been established yet. You know, it's just a funny kind of concept. But he goes on to say that Wonder Woman is not being designed as a live service title. Warner Brothers emphasized that Monolith Productions is focused on single player elements in an open world. Yeah, I mean, that is what they are specialized in. Monolith Productions, doing the, you know, Lord of the Rings games, Shadow of War and stuff. So it's like, you know, that is something they're good at, which makes sense to have them do a single player game. As well as, you know, it doesn't seem like this game will be made for microtransactions and stuff, even though Warner Brothers may want to push that. Don't do it, because you've already tried to attempt to do that before with Shadow of War and people didn't like that, and you did it terribly, and microtransactions just don't fit in that kind of game, which I'm assuming Wonder Woman is going to walk the same line that Shadow of War did, just in the DC universe instead of Lord of the Rings. So that whole Nemesis system is definitely going to be interesting with this game. But it's like, yeah, the microtransaction stuff, man, like, don't even attempt to even add that in there. If you want to make money on the back end, like I said, for single player games, the best way to do that is to do the Alan Wake 2 route and just do multiple paid expansions, and just have people either purchase the deluxe edition or the edition that's like $120 or whatever like that, and get all of the expansions, or just get one of the expansions and then you pay for the other two, which I'm perfectly fine with if the game comes out being really good. It's optimized, the story's great, gameplay mechanics are amazing, and last but not least, it looks good. You know what I'm saying? It graphically looks good. So it's like people are willing to pay money for specific parts of the game or whatever like that if you want to hold off on it, as long as the initial product that you release is, substantial, is that it's worth that price tag. So in my opinion, man, I think like this is going to definitely be, an exciting title. You got Monolith Productions and the Nemesis system, as well as Wonder Woman with the DC universe and stuff. So, I think it's going to end up shaping to be a good game. They know how to do combat. You're probably definitely going to have some platforming in there, some climbing and stuff like that. Cause we all know, I remember when Shadow Warfare came out and people were just like comparing like the climbing and everything to like Assassin's Creed and stuff. But it looks good though. So it's like Assassin's Creed isn't a bad game to compare it to if you're talking about platforming. So, definitely probably most likely going to get a lot of that stuff going. Wonder Woman, is definitely a good I think Wonder Woman is a good IP for them to actually do a game on. But we'll see. We'll see where this goes, how this ends up, what's it going to shape up being. But it's too early for me to say I'm excited for it, but this is a good step in the right direction, at least as far as like going no live service for Wonder Woman game. Even though you kind of want to double down on live service for all your other games. Just, I think with the Suicide Squad thing, I think they just like that game is already in development. There's no way to kind of go back and change Suicide Squad. That game at its fundamental core is a live service game through and through. There is no, you'd have to cancel the entire damn game and just do everything from scratch. Will probably take another 4 to 7 years, depending on, how their process is. But that game is going to definitely release and not be purchased a lot by a lot of people. That game is definitely not going to do as well as they want it to do. But moving on, though, we got some more information. Sony says PS Portal wasn't designed to make a profit. Ooh, man, that's when I first saw this, I was like, what in the fuck? Like, no, if this wasn't designed to make a profit, then why would you even sell it in the first damn place? You just get the shit out for free. That's the best way to increase player engagement. Players like free shit. I like free shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, wait, what? You sold it for $200. Like, come on, man. Like, just stop it. So, like, if you were going to sell it, if you were going to just release this at a loss and you prepared to release this at a loss, you would just gave it to everybody for free. So it's like, no, this shit is cope. That's what this is. This shit is pure cope. So going on, man, they I can't deal with PlayStation with Sony right now. This is like, man, like they do so much egregious shit. And it's like, they just come out and just say wild justifications for the behavior they have. So they go on to say that apparently the device was never designed as a profit-making product. Instead, the firm says the goal of the brave little device is to increase PS5 engagement. Okay, how? People who have a PlayStation 5 and are going to play their PS5 exclusives. Well, actually, people who just have a PlayStation 5 are going to play their game regardless. But if you're like me and you have a PlayStation 5 and a PC, or you have a PlayStation 5 and an Xbox, people are going to play the PlayStation 5 for the exclusives that you have, That's just simply that. That's one way you can increase like engagement is by continually doing the exclusives that you have to justify even having a console in the first place. You know, so it's my thing. Like, I don't understand how that is supposed to increase PS5 engagement when I'll read the bottom part. The bottom part says, rather than profitability, we want to increase the amount of time we can play with the PS5. If you can play anywhere, I think some people will definitely spend more time playing games. That's the point. You can't play this anywhere. You have to be connected to your PS5 to be able to play this. It has to be on the same Wi-Fi, on the same network for you to even pair this piece of hardware to your PS5. It's the only way this shit's going to function. So I can't leave my house with this handheld and play my PS5 games anywhere. That would have been more reasonable to justify this claim if you could play this anywhere, like literally. If I could leave the comfort of my home and boot up the PlayStation app and just live the stream games through the cloud to be able to, you know, play my PlayStation 5 titles. That just this shit just doesn't make any sense, and it's cope number one, and you're justifying something that is obviously a cash grab. I don't understand this. You know, maybe if you would have released this after the cloud initiative you're starting now with, you know, the new PS Cloud. I think it's like, I forgot what the project name is actually called, but PlayStation is actually developing a different cloud service outside of their PS, you know, their PS Plus or their other current cloud service that they have now, but it's supposed to make like 4K gaming a lot easier and stuff like that. That would have been a lot better if you would have released it then and actually gave it the accessibility to cloud gaming. So then have it to where you can actually play your games on the cloud and not necessarily, I don't need to be connected to my PS5. I just need to be connected to the networks. I need to be connected to some type of internet connection anywhere. You know, that would have made this product a hell of a lot more engaging, and a lot of what they're banking on is people that they're doing a convoluted explanation and banking on people to not understand what this actual product does. I've seen so many conversations around this where people just sit back and they're like, you know, like, what does it actually do? I don't know. I want to buy it for my kids. I want to buy it for my, you know, my husband or whatever like that. And it's just like, you can't play this without leaving your house. You have to be in your home on the same Wi-Fi network in order for you to be able to play on this handheld. Or it's just a useless piece of hardware. It's just a useless ass screen between a broken PS5 controller. That's it. And it's just like they're selling it for $200 and then trying to trick people into thinking that this shit can just game anywhere when it can't. It can't do that. You have to be paired to the PS5 for you to be able to access your library on your PS5. And the PlayStation 5 has to be turned on. And I'm just like, you could have just simply made a product that allowed cloud streaming. You already have a PlayStation app where people can go on their cell phones, check their library, purchase games, connect the app to the PS5, and download the games from the app without even going through the PlayStation Plus store on the PS5 itself. You can do all of that from the PlayStation app and just download all the game that you want to buy, that you want to play, that's releasing shortly. You can pre-order that, and it actually has a timer, same interface as the PS5 and everything. So it's just like, you could have just done that and then allow people to do cloud streaming on the handheld. You could just stream your games directly to the actual fucking handheld. It just doesn't make sense. And the PlayStation app allows you to be able to save your saved data to the cloud. So I'm just like, you have all of these resources to enable cloud gaming on this handheld, yet you chose not to, or you simply just chose to release this product, during a time when everyone else was announcing handhelds, and you wanted, for optics, wanted your name thrown into the mix. Oh, PlayStation's doing another handheld. Oh, this is an exciting moment. Is PlayStation going to get back into the handheld game? Yada, 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 yada. You released it during a time when the Nintendo Switch 2 was announced or like rumored about. You released it during a time when the Asus ROG Ally was announced. You released it during a time short after when the Legion Go was announced. And, you know, and during the rumors of the Steam Deck OLED, which is now confirmed. So I'm just like, what are you talking about? What is this? What is this? You know, and all it just sounds like to me is just cope. It just sounds like, you know, preparation for like, but granted though, even now, I think the reports coming out now that it's sold out, but it's just like, no, bro, it's like, no, this particular article came out before the announcement that everything was like sold out, I guess, at this point. But I mean, that could also be, you know what I'm saying, skewed as well. I don't see this particular product being like, so it could possibly be sold out because they didn't make that many of them. Given the fact that the initial announcement around this was very so mixed, probably more so leaning towards people not liking the concept of it, and people just being like, well, I don't even think people like disliking it, but more so people just like feeling indifferent towards it. Like, what the hell do I need this for? You know? And they probably didn't make that many because they didn't want to make the same mistake that they made with PSVR 2, where they made a bunch of them, but nobody bought that shit. So it's like now they have it at a loss. You don't even hear them talking about PlayStation VR 2 that much anymore. So, you know, it's just cope. There's a whole bunch of shit going around with this particular thing. I've always said the PS Portal was a waste of time, just like I say, you know, waste of time, a waste of money. Just like I say that the PS5 Slim is just a waste of time, waste of money. PS5 Slim ain't even that much slimmer than the original, and they're trying to sell it to you for the original price and take away the old original console so you can't get that at a discount. Doesn't make any sense. Cash grab, in my opinion. But moving forward, we have some more information. 505 Games parent company lays off 30% of its workforce. Says gamers really only want sequels, so that's what it's going to make. Digital Bros joins the chorus of game companies putting people out of work in the name of operational efficiency. Oh man, that's a lot. That's a lot to take in right there. I simply don't agree with a lot of this. I do think sequels are exciting, but I don't think they're the driving force as to what gamers purchase. But going on, they say that the video game industry continues to be plagued by layoffs as 505 Games parent company Digital Bros has announced plans to eliminate roughly 30% of its total workforce. The company said the cuts are necessary because, simply put, gamers prefer sequels and remakes and to brand new games, and so that's what it's going to focus on. I don't think that is the case. Yes, remakes and sequels are exciting because people like to see continuations of their favorite titles that they may have, like, you know, grown up with, that, you know, they made originally, you know, and then they didn't make a sequel to it like for like 15, 20 years or whatever like that. Kind of like Alan Wake, you know, that is drumming up some excitement because the last time we seen Alan Wake, it was like on a cliffhanger type of thing, and nobody heard from Alan Wake for 13 years or 15 years, however long it's been. It's been more than a decade, you know. As well as with the remakes too. I mean, I have another article we're going to get into later on about the remake, you know, type of debate that's going on right now. But, you know, I think the main driving force is that people would buy original concept games or like original IPs, but most games come out buggy broken and people got to wait on shit anyway. So it's like, if they're going to be excited about something, they're going to be excited about a development company that has rapport, that's consistent, that has made good games in the past, not too far in the past. If you start thinking about like development companies like BioWare, you know, the BioWare that you knew back then making Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3 didn't make Andromeda, and they're not making the next Mass Effect. So a lot of those people left. But within reasonable amount of time, you know, gamers mostly gravitate towards development companies who have provided a consistent rapport with their games, as well as, you know, sequels to great games. I mean, like, that's kind of hard to shake. But I wouldn't say that that's the main driving force. I think the main people would buy original IPs and new type of games, you know, if the games were good, you know. I guess you could use like From Software as a good example, even though, I mean, like, From Software, they don't really make too many sequels anymore, but they've made a bunch of different games. Granted, the mechanics are the same, but I mean, you got Sekiro, which was an original IP. You know, you have Elden Ring, which was also an original IP that sold a lot. You know, so it's just like people will buy original IPs. It just depends on who's making them. That's it. Just depends on who's making them. You can't get no name type of like studio to develop some shit that they've never like done before, you know, and then, you know, release it and then it ends up being shit. Kind of like with Redfall. Like, people were excited about Redfall. Redfall looked like it was going to be a good game. But once the game released to shit. And then, you know, it's not like people didn't want to play that game. People wanted to play that game, but that game's broken. The game's like broken and released, and they had a studio that's specified in single player games making multiplayer games. So it's like, you know, you have to talk about the other aspects of it if you want to kind of play this type of like, oh, we're laying off a bunch of people because it's gamers' fault. Gamers don't want to buy the games we want to put out. Gamers don't want to buy shit, and they're not spending $60-$70 on shit. So it's like, you know, you have to kind of have some nuance with your thought process a little bit, you know. But they go on to say that the video game market has evolved since the pandemic to be more selective in terms of new games, with consumers increasingly reverting to well-established intellectual properties and playing these same games for longer periods. Digital Bro strategy has had to adapt to this new and evolving competitive scenario and will focus its efforts moving forward on the release of sequels and new versions of previously successful and established games, with a limited number of new larger budget productions. I mean, I guess that's fine, you know. The particular Digital Bros, they do have a lot of well-established games that I've already been announcement of sequels and stuff like that. I'll get into it at the bottom of this, but I mean, Death Stranding is one of them. I personally didn't like Death Stranding, but you know, that's not to say that, you know, the story or nothing isn't good or anything, but it's more so like, I can't get through the repetitive just walking. That shit takes... If it's one thing in gaming that I hate the most, it's traversal of some areas. I don't want to just be walking, listening to a soundtrack I don't like, you know, and just seeing a bunch of nothingness. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's one thing I was like, Red Dead Redemption 2. Also, I have that problem with that. Like, even though Red Dead Redemption 2 has like a bunch of dynamic events that happen, and you got the trains, so you got like fast travel and stuff like that, but just simply riding a horse, which feels like it takes forever on that big ass map, is very much so annoying to me. Like, I want to experience the dynamic events that take place, but the traversal in that game, just I can only play it for a little bit and I stop. So they go on to say that in order to prioritize high quality and long-standing successful titles, Digital Bros has reconsidered the number of projects under development, and as such will review the organization structure accordingly to align with the evolving competitive environment in the medium to long term to ensure maximum operational efficiency. I agree with that. I agree that cut down on the amount of titles that you work in and put more eyes on a few titles, so in that way you can make them the best of the best. I don't agree with I don't think you need to lay off 30% of your workforce to do that, though. I don't think you need to do that. I think having more eyes, more developers on games can actually limit crunch, as well as make sure that you have the best quality game that you can put out there, which is why I kind of agree with Sony when they say that they're scaling back the amount of live service titles. and just focusing on a few, that is actually the best strategy that you can possibly do, because you're putting more work behind, you're putting more people, more of your resources into one specific game, and then maximizing the quality and potential of that particular game. Same thing with CD Projekt Red is doing the same thing with The Witcher 4. Once Phantom Liberty for Cyberpunk 2077 completely ended, now all of those people that worked on that game are going to help out on The Witcher 4, which makes sense. I like that. I just don't like it. I don't like when people get laid off. But you know what I mean? Like, I think that, you know, that's a good strategy. I don't agree with the reasoning in which they're doing it for. I also don't agree with the 30% layoff. Don't think you need to lay off people to be able. It's kind of counterintuitive when you lay off people for operational efficiency. If you want maximum operational efficiency, you would want more people on a project to be able to maximize the amount of effort and amount of resources to make a quality game. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments, man. I completely agree with this bottom portion here, but I don't agree with the initial statements of gamers just want sequels. I don't agree with the 30% of the layoffs that they did, but some of the games that, you know, they've worked on and some of the studios that they have, but some of the games that they worked on though, or that they have as far as IPs is like Control, Death Stranding, Ghost Runner, Hawken, which I'm not familiar with, and Bloodstained Ritual of the Night I'm also familiar with. And it's a majority shareholder in Starbreeze, which they make PayDay. So, you know, they're already making a sequel to Ghost Runner. They've already did that already. They've announced a sequel to Control, and they have already announced a sequel to Death Stranding. So, you know, I think that, you know, like I said before, don't agree with the initial two statements, but I agree with the last part that they had mentioned before. But moving on, though, we have some more information. Embracer says PayDay 3 underperformed following launch issues. The game's release was marred by matchmaking problems and a delayed title update. Sucks, but, you know, that's just what happens when you don't, you know. Well, first of all, it was a mistake to initially make the game always online anyways, in my opinion. In my opinion, it was just a mistake to even do that. I never agree with games that have a single player aspect to it, never make it always online. Or if you're going, you don't need that. You can just simply make multiplayer online if you have a single player aspect to it. But, you know, whatever reason, which I'm assuming the main reason in which they attempted to do always online was for the same reason Forza Motorsport is always online, simply to be able to make patching easier. Granted, when you have more deep underlying internal issues with, you know, with the game itself, that always online just makes everything a little bit worse. But CEO of Embracer, Lars, said that the game had a positive adjusted EBIT contribution with investments recouped in the second quarter, but performed below management expectations. Which, you know, management expectations, they always make unreasonable ass expectations of games. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, essentially the game could have probably sold pretty decent, but they just wanted more. So, I mean, like, you know, the management expectations mean nothing to me, essentially. But they go on to say that after some instability, and this is them adding, you know, the first update in early November, which was delayed. But they go on to say that after some instability, we're finally up and running as things should be. Heisters heisting, civilians screaming, and cops floundering. We've got a lot more cooking. Keep letting us know when you find bugs and sending us your suggestions. I mean, you know, from what I heard, player engagement is down. It's just, I feel like it's too late. It's too late. My thing is like, you could have possibly retained a lot of people had you separated the single player from being online versus the multiplayer. You could have just had people that, you know, hey, can't really, you know, multiplayer is kind of unstable, but, you know, or unstable, you know, but we can, you know, play single player at least, you know, we can do that. I can still be able to play single player, go through some of the heists and stuff like that, make some progression with my own character, and then translate all of that information over into the multiplayer. So whatever progress I've made in single player carries over into multiplayer while you guys finish patching the multiplayer. That is the route they should have gone, in my opinion. But sadly, they went with this trend of trying to do everything always online, and trying to justify the benefits of it, but never want to acknowledge the risk that comes with it. So in my opinion, sucks. They may actually end up being on the chopping block at Embracer. I know Embracer is doing a lot of different changes and stuff. Like I said before, you also have the other company who's a majority shareholder. They've also, been doing some readjustments in their company as well, Digital Bros. So yeah, if anything, they may get hit with Digital Bros and stuff like that, pulling out most likely, and then Embracer Group's gonna most likely have to change course with them. So you may see, the deterioration of Starbreeze later on. I don't know. But doesn't seem like it's good though. Doesn't seem like, that choice of always online, they benefited from that. But moving on though, we got some more information. And Immortals of Aveum developer blames poor sales on busy launch calendar. Talks to put game on subscription services are happening. Oh man, you know what? I was excited for this game. I was so excited for this game. I don't blame busy launch schedule. I don't think that had any. It had probably a bit to contribute to a little bit of sales, but I think if the main thing that hurt this game was it released buggy. It released unoptimized. It couldn't even run on top tier hardware. So it's like they overshot the quality of the game with this. Like you couldn't even run this game day one with a 4090. That's how bad it was. There were all kind of reports of people like struggling to run this game on PC, and then as well as on consoles, there were some bugs on consoles too. So it's like I don't think the time frame in which this game released did that much damage to it. I think it because it released buggy, and then initial reports said that it released buggy. So you've created a optics for the game to be running poorly, and once people hear that, they don't buy the game. You can go to Steam reviews right now, and I think it's either mixed or negatively reviewed because of the optimization of the game. So he goes on to say that the CEO of Immortals of Aveum developer Lucinda Studios has said recently the game during such a busy window 100% contributed to his poor sales figures. Don't agree with that at all. But they go on to say that Immortals of Aveum released on August 22nd, 2023, which meant it was competing with the likes of Baldur's Gate 3. I mean, that is a juggernaut. Armor Core 6, and with Starfield releasing soon after, the studio knew Immortals release date was in a packed windows, and Robin said, trying to create awareness for us as a new studio and IP was really, really difficult. I think the marketing was good. The marketing wasn't bad. They did a pretty good job announcing the marketing for this game. A lot of people knew about this game. The problem in which happened is that it released buggy. And then when people knew about that, from the initial marketing team that did a good job marketing your game, people found out that the game was broken. It was like, no, I'm not spending. And I think you were selling at $60, $70 on console. Nobody's paying that for broken IP, not doing it. So they go on to say that the game's poor sales resulted in the studio laying off 45% of its staff, which Robin said was unavoidable. Our business relies on selling games, and we didn't sell enough games, he stated, and that forced me to make that decision. The studio is looking into getting Immortals on Xbox Game Pass as well as PlayStation Plus. Robin's revealed and is talking to both companies about deals. We don't have a date yet, he said. I'm pretty sure it's going to happen though. Yeah, I mean, I guess at this point, I'm still waiting on I haven't really seen any news or anything about, and I'm following the game on Steam. I haven't really seen any news or anything like that about any patches or anything. Not substantial patches, at least. Probably a patch here or two to fix smaller bugs, but we need Baldur's Gate level patching like that fixes thousands of bugs and optimization issues. And that's just something I haven't seen yet, which is why I haven't attempted to try to buy the game. I may look more into it once, something else has come out about it. I've been trying to keep up with this game, because I do like it. I think it's a dope concept. It's a new IP, and the characters look interesting to me. But I just don't think I'm not willing to sacrifice my hard-earned money for something that does not function at a $60, $70, not let alone a $50 price tag, So it's like, I disagree. I don't think that, the launch window in which you chose to release your game impacted the sales of your game that much. Because especially too, those are two different player bases. You announced all of these games that we're releasing around here are RPGs. Immortals of Aveum isn't an RPG. Baldur's Gate 3 is an RPG. Starfield is an RPG. Armored Core 6 is an action-based RPG, or like a Souls-like action-based with RPG elements. For the most part, these are two different types of games. These are different types of games. This isn't an RPG. This was mainly a narrative-driven, action-focused game. First-person shooter, actually, which is completely different from any of the three that have been named here. So I also see this as cope. No, you just released a terrible fucking broken game, and that cost you sales, which then in turn made you have to lay people off. Maybe you should focus on optimization instead of trying to make sure the shit looks amazing. Like it looks great. It looks amazing, but can't nobody do it. That doesn't mean a damn thing if no one can run your game. No one can play your shit. It's an amazing tech demo. That's all it is. No one can run it. No one can play it. But sucks. But I mean, it's just, this is the choices we make and the consequences we live with. But moving on though. Last bit of the story today, or last bit of the news today, I guess. Gamers believe Remakes should not qualify for Game of the Year. Oh man, I think I had this discussion in some forums. I think it was probably Reddit, and I knew they were going to target Resident Evil with this. My opinion is that I don't think, possibly not game. Well, I don't know. See, here's the thing, right? For me, remakes are brand new games. Remakes are brand new games. It takes an entire development team to actually build a remake from ground up again. Granted you're using same story plots, same voice actors, you know what I'm saying? That's about it though. With Resident Evil for example, the game had to be developed from the ground up on a completely new engine. It had to be developed from the ground up from a completely new engine. Now I would agree with this initial statement if it was a remaster. But since this is a remake and the game has to be built from the ground up on new hardware for new hardware as well as on a new engine, it requires more effort as if you were to develop a brand new IP. The same thing. What's the difference in development process from a new IP versus Resident Evil remakes, Resident Evil 2, 3, 4 remakes, or whatever like that? They have to redevelop the entire world again. They have to redevelop, and they're not just like dropping the original construct, or the original foundation from the old game into the new one. That's not how remakes work. They have to actually go back through and rebuild everything from scratch to make it look modern, as well as change up the gameplay mechanics. Resident Evil 2 functions completely different than Resident Evil 2 Remake on a completely different scale. They're not even the same. They're literally not even the same game. They're literally not even the same game. So my thing is like, even with, for instance, for example, like with Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4 is probably more close to Resident Evil 4 Remake, but Resident Evil 4 Remake has modern gameplay mechanics and different fate. They had to redesign how Leon Kennedy looks. Leon Kennedy looks nothing like the Leon Kennedy from the original Resident Evil 4. Doesn't look nothing like him. Completely different face model. So you have to redesign that entire thing as well as implement that into the new gameplay mechanics, because the gameplay mechanics from Resident Evil 4 Remake are not the same as the gameplay mechanics of Resident Evil 4. There's a lot lacking in Resident Evil 4 versus Resident Evil 4 Remake, you know? So that's my thing, is like, I'm probably, and it doesn't matter whether or not it's for Game of the Year or you make like a specific type of, you know, award for remakes. The fact of the matter is that the development of this game and a brand new IP, if you were making a brand new IP on the RE engine and Resident Evil and another Resident Evil remake, you're going to have to build both games from the ground up. There wouldn't be like, it's not like Resident Evil starting on a further starting line versus original IP. They both have to be made from the ground up. They're not taking in a foundation from an older game and enhancing the visuals. That's not how that works with remakes. They have to rebuild the entire game. So they go on to say, and this is one particular thing that I want to kind of highlight, is the why it matters. I never typically read these, but I never typically highlight these, but I read these though. But they go on to say that including remakes in the most prestigious category is a bit controversial, as it may overlook more deserving original titles. For instance, Hogwarts Legacy, an original title, was not nominated for any category despite its popularity. I think that was more of an optics move. I simply think they just didn't throw Hogwarts Legacy in there because of the author. They don't want him Hogwarts Legacy was popular, but you want to forget the fact that when it was announced or when it was about to release, there was a whole big ass stir online about how people shouldn't buy the game and you shouldn't support this person and that person, all that shit. They don't want the game. I can understand the Game Awards not wanting to deal with that. I can understand the Game Awards not wanting to deal with online like nonsense. So it's like, that whole entire thing to me is just an optics move. Like, no, we're not going to add this. Yeah, the game made money and all that shit. We're not going to add this into the nomination because we don't want to deal with the online backlash that comes with that if this game wins Game of the Year. Sorry, that's just, that's just what you live in. That's just the world. That's just the world we live in today. Unfortunately, that's to me what that is. They don't want to deal with the backlash that'll come with that, because there was backlash when the game got announced. There was backlash when the game got announced. There was backlash when the game was about to release. There was backlash during the game's release. You know what I'm saying? And then it just died off. So now if the game gets announced and there's eyes on the game again, there's going to be backlash online again. Trying to tell people, you should remove it from the category. You should do this and you should do that. Can you imagine if Hogwarts Legacy was actually nominated and won? The people who don't like that and who don't like that author and the ideals of that author and all that shit will flip a lid. They don't want to deal with that. They don't want to deal with that, and rightfully so. Who wants to deal with nonsense? Nobody wants to deal with a headache. So it's like, it just makes sense. So they go on to say that Twitter users like Fighting Cowboy sparked a discussion among the gaming community with their tweets. Their view stems from the idea that favoring remakes over brand new games might block the spotlight from shining on creative and original titles at the Game Awards. I guess, like, how many games this year have been original IP that have been Game of the Year worthy? Most games that have come out this year, damn near sequels that are like, AAA titles that would only fit in this category. They're not putting any indie titles in this category. They're not putting any AA games in this category. It's all AAA games. So my thing is like, how many original IP can't think of that aren't sequels that are AAA titles. I can't really think of too many. Most of the shit is all sequels. Baldur's Gate 3, that's the third iteration. You know? I'm just like, Alan Wake 2, second iteration. You know, like, I'm just trying to figure out, like, what spotlight is there to show on original IP when I just literally got done talking about a studio who is laying off 30% of their workforce because they so-called think gamers don't buy original IP, they just buy sequels. I mean, you know, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't know where to go with this. I don't know where to go with that particular comment. It's just like, no, like, RE4 deserves spotlight because it takes the same amount of effort to develop a remake than it does original IP. If you're building them on the same engine, you're crafting a brand new game from the ground up. Yes, the people who make Resident Evil 4 remake may have a little bit of leg up because they know what the world design looks like. That doesn't stop them from having to rebuild the entire world again. They have to rebuild the entire world again on a brand new engine, so then that way it can be able to look modern. So it's like, you know what I'm saying? They have to redo the mocap. They have to redo, you know what I'm saying? They have to bring the actors back in and stuff like that to redo the mocap and all this other stuff. And I'm just like, what are you talking about? What you're saying, the shit you're saying legit does not justify the reason. It doesn't. Like, you know what I'm saying? So they go on to say that, however, the discourse unfolds with the user countering the argument, asserting that Resident Evil 4 Remake offers a new gaming experience, making it legitimate contender for the award. Yes, I agree with that. Granted, even if it's just, and I know people say, oh, you know, you're biased or whatever like that. You like Resident Evil. Resident Evil is your favorite genre, your favorite gaming franchise, whatever like that. Even if it wasn't Resident Evil they were talking about, even if it was Final Fantasy VII Remake, I would still say that game takes a hell of a lot of effort to make, just the same amount of effort it would take, probably even more effort, because you have to not only make it look amazing, as well as you have to rebuild all of those cinematics and animations all over again. So my thing is like, you know, how much weight does that argument really have? You know what I'm saying? When you start delving deep into it. Like, I think people who don't actually know or understand how development works can only sit back and say stuff like this. Like, if you don't know how development actually takes place on a particular IP or an application or whatever like that, it's going to be hard for you to grasp and understand the concept of like engines and the way they function, as well as the development pipeline and the way animations work and stuff like that. When you can't just take something that already existed, enhance it, call it a remake and stuff like that, and then it takes less effort to do that than it does to build a brand new game from the ground up. No, remakes you have to build from the ground up. Sorry, you have to build the games from the ground up. Moving on though, they have the idea that a remake is a new project, especially considering the comprehensive overhaul in mechanics and gameplay, which is what I said, find support from another user. They suggest the possibility of a separate category for remakes while still acknowledging their deserving recognition. I don't even think they need a separate category, to be completely honest with you. For what? Yes, like, it's a remake, but it's like, does the effort in which it takes to develop that game change significantly compared to the effort that it takes to develop an original IP? Or is it just the fact of you want to just shine light on original ideas? Which then, if that's the case, why not make a category for original ideas? You could just as easily make a category for remakes as you could you could just as easily make a category for original IP as you make for remakes. So what is the argument then? My thing is like the development time in which it takes to make remakes can be equivalent to the development time it takes to develop an original IP. That's my thing. Granted, I mean, I guess like what you got to take a little bit longer in pre-production to come up with the idea, but 9 times out of 10, the idea that you create ain't even original. A lot of the times when original IPs get developed, they have the same mechanics that I've seen in other games. People have done it already. So what are you talking about? It makes no sense to me at all. You sit back and say, we need to shine spotlight on original IP and original ideas and this and here and this and that and the creative process and all this other stuff. But really, is that shit creative? Like, is it really original though? Like, has someone not done that before? Like, I wonder if you, like, before you jump on, X, do you think about the actual concern that you have, or are you just like upset the fact that a game that you wanted didn't get nominated in game of the year, and so now you are upset that you want to create a stir about creative and original IP because the game you wanted to be game of the year ended up not being game of the year? Is that the case, or is it just like you just didn't like Resident Evil 4 that much and you wanted other games to shine a little bit more? My thing is like, why does this conversation even exist, or why does it even matter? I would like to hear that in the comments. Let me know what you guys think, man. This is it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you like the video. Or if you guys enjoy the content, subscribe to the channel, man. I drop a lot of these every week, or every week on Tuesday. So, I mean, being consistent with it, finding topics that I like and dislike. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed it, man, let me know. And I will see you guys next week. Thank you. Take it easy.